15 years ago, I experienced something that I will never forget. Every time I recall this experience, it is so real. There was a time when I doubted whether God was real. After experiencing this event, I changed my mind. In heaven, I saw God. I also saw my mother, who gave me great comfort and warmth. I felt God's and my mother's love, and the feeling was so strong. All of this made me a better person. At that time, I dated a boyfriend. From the first time I saw him, I knew he was the one for me. I loved his tenderness and romance, which made me feel so happy and content. Because of work, we hadn't seen each other for half a month. When he called to tell me he would be back today, I felt very happy. I planned to drive to pick him up. I imagined the moment of our reunion and my heart was filled with excitement and anticipation. I went home, changed my clothes, and got ready to pick up my boyfriend. I called him to tell him I was on my way. I was driving down the road while listening to music. Suddenly, I saw a car in front of me changing lanes frequently. I subconsciously slammed on my brakes. Because I was going so fast, I hit the vehicle coming from the opposite direction. I felt like I was in a washing machine and was spinning like crazy. Next, my memory became blurry. It seemed like someone was yelling and someone else was slapping me. I also heard the sound of police cars and ambulances. I was really scared and afraid that I would lose my family. Suddenly, I appeared in a black void. I couldn't see anything and I couldn't hear anything. This scared me a lot because I didn't know where this was or how long it would last. I started moving around trying to find an exit. I groped around in the darkness, not finding any way out. I felt increasingly desperate, and I began to suspect that this was just a dream. I gave up my search and stayed quietly where I was. I thought this dream would go away after a while, but it didn't. It felt so real here. I began to cry. My heart became heavier, and I wondered how long I would have to stay here. I didn't know how long had passed and I started to miss my family. Finally, with grief and panic, I cried out to God for help. Suddenly, a bright light appeared in front of me. A warmth surrounded me, and it was as if I was in a whole new world. The figure of a woman appeared before me, wearing a white robe and hair as bright as golden sunlight. As she approached me, I realized that she was my deceased mother. For as long as I can remember, my mother and I have always been estranged from each other, and her suicide has always been something I could not let go of. But in this moment, I felt her love for me, and it was an unconditional love. She hugged me gently and told me she was always there for me, always watching over me. I was so surprised when I saw her here. Although I was not a Christian at that time, I knew that if you kill yourself, you will be left in hell. I was very surprised by her answer. She told me that God gives every soul a chance to go to heaven, even if the person is a sinner. Those who are in hell also get one chance to enter heaven. Now I know that my mother was given this opportunity. My mother told me that God is here for us and that He will accept us no matter who we are. Everyone on earth makes mistakes, but that doesn't mean they can't be loved by God. Curiously, I asked my mother what hell was like. She replied, "It is an indescribable pain and fear. There, every hurtful word spoken and every sinful act is magnified thousands of times. You will be trapped in endless darkness and loneliness." Suddenly, a darkness appeared before my eyes. I realized I had come to hell. I saw souls who were suffering. I had made many irresponsible statements that hurt the feelings of many people and may have even affected their lives. After my mother committed suicide, I cursed my mother constantly. I swore I would never forgive her, and I hope she burns in hell forever. I experienced the loneliness of having no faith. A world without anything. When I saw the things I had done, my sins were mercilessly magnified here. My mind is no longer clear, and my soul is consumed with pain and grief. There is no warmth or comfort in this place, only eternal pain and loneliness. I regret my actions so much and long for forgiveness. Immediately after I left hell, my mother embraced me. She reassured me that everything would be all right. I asked my mother, "Why did you choose to leave us?" She looked at me, with tears in her eyes, and apologized to me. She explained, she had been experiencing pain, but she didn't know how to get rid of it. Seeing my mother crying, I knew it was time to forgive her. After hearing her apology, my hatred for her disappeared. I whispered, "I forgive you." When I finished saying this, I appeared in a beautiful place. I saw flowers of all colors. The warm breeze blew against my cheeks and made me feel incredibly comfortable. I smelled the fragrance of flowers and the fresh air. There was a tall crystal castle in the distance, which was enveloped in a dazzling light. I asked myself in my mind, is this heaven? Around the castle, there were many people strolling around, and they looked very happy and content. Their expressions were all full of joy, and their interactions with each other were full of friendliness. Everything here is so harmonious. My soul was healed and purified in this place. It was so beautiful and peaceful, and it made me feel truly happy and content. Suddenly, I heard someone call my name behind me. I turned around and saw a man. As he approached me, I noticed that his hair was curly brown and very distinctive. He was wearing a long white robe with a golden pattern on it. I knew that he was Jesus. He looked at me with a smile. I felt his love, and the feeling was so strong. He told me that he was always there for me. Hearing these words, I began to understand that his love was real. Jesus also told me that this place is heaven. Here, there is no pain or suffering, only eternal happiness. Jesus reminded me that even though this is my home, I cannot stay here now. I must return to earth to fulfill my mission. He told me not to worry, because he had everything planned for me. Then, he showed me a beautiful scene. I saw myself wearing a beautiful white wedding dress, with a happy smile on my face. I was holding hands with a man and walking down the aisle together, surrounded by the blessings of family and friends. I felt my happiness and contentment, and it seemed like the whole world was cheering for me. Unfortunately, I didn't get a good look at the man's face. I'm not sure if it was my current boyfriend. Then the scene came back to a hospital where I was lying in a hospital bed. A female nurse placed a baby into my arms. I held her tightly and felt her softness. She had an innocent smile on her face, long eyelashes, and tiny pink hands. Jesus told me that this little angel was his gift to me, and that she would bring me endless love and happiness. Then the scene shifted again to a beautiful park. I saw myself running with a girl. We both had smiles on our faces. We felt freedom and joy. I knew that these were the happy lives Jesus had planned for me. I was full of hope and confidence in my future. Jesus told me, "We will meet again." I knew I had to leave here and return to earth. I said goodbye to Jesus, and he gently held my hand. He told me that he would always be by my side, protecting and guiding me to true happiness. Before I left, I wanted to enjoy the beauty of heaven again. The endless meadow and the garden with flowers in full bloom could not be seen. The birds in the trees were singing. I feel endless peace and tranquility. I knew that this feeling would always be with me when I faced challenges, giving me strength and courage. As I left heaven, a powerful force lifted me away from this wonderful scene. Although I am no longer in heaven, I will never forget what I experienced there. When I woke up from my coma, my head still felt like it had some pain in it. I tried to sit up, but my body was very weak. I noticed that I was in a white room, surrounded by medical equipment and monitors. I felt someone holding my hand, and I turned my head to see my boyfriend. His eyes were full of concern and worry. I asked him what had happened, and he told me I had been in a coma for a week. I had been seriously injured in a car accident and needed surgery. He also told me that the surgery was very successful and that I was now recovering. My heart was a little heavy, and I couldn't believe I had been in a coma for a week. My boyfriend assured me that he would always be there for me and help me recover as soon as possible. I felt so warm inside, and I knew I was not alone. He told me all about what the doctors and nurses had done for me. He told me that when I was admitted to the operating room, he felt so worried and upset. He had been waiting to hear from the doctors and wanted to hear good news. I felt so relieved, and I expressed my gratitude to my boyfriend. I am so lucky to have someone like him by my side. He has given me a lot of strength and courage. Also, I am very thankful to God that He has brought me back to my family. When I was with my boyfriend, I didn't believe in the existence of God, and I didn't even have much interest in religion or faith. However, when I went through this, my faith began to change. I realized that life is so fragile and needs some kind of higher power to protect and guide it. I felt a wonderful connection with God in my life. He gave me the strength and hope to move on with my life. My boyfriend and I went through many setbacks and difficulties together, but we never lost our faith and hope. We got married in a church. Our married life was full of happiness and blessings, and God brought us endless grace and blessings. We soon welcomed our first child, a beautiful girl. This made me feel very happy and content because I now had my own family and the love of my life. Every time I see my daughter playing happily in the sunshine, I know it is God's blessing and grace to me. My faith has enabled me to see the true meaning of life and made me more grateful and in awe of God's existence. I believe that God has always protected me and my family so that we can live a happier and more fulfilling life in this world.